Wait. It's all padding? What the fuck?! Okay, so I want to talk about Chainsaw Man because I recently, about 6-7 months ago, have read the manga. I thought it was incredibly interesting, and I know literally everyone, their mom, their dog, their brother, their sister, their grandma and grandpa has talked about Chainsaw Man. Okay, I want to do it now too. Okay, it's my turn. Let me have my turn. Let me have my turn. So just a quick synopsis of the story. It's a guy, a kid named Denji. He's broke and horny. Like me. There's devils in the world, and he becomes one. And that's the story. I'm not going to really talk about the story because literally everyone, there's no point in me talking about it. I'm not going to talk about the story because I know there's a lot of other... Fuck! I know there's a lot... I'm not going to talk about the story because I know that there's a lot more people on the internet that can explain it better than me. I just want to talk about the things that I really love about it because I just really enjoyed this story. It was a very fascinating story, a very horny story. There's just a lot of things I think Chainsaw Man does so much different from any other manga, and I'm only going to be talking about part. I'm not going to be talking about part 2 because it isn't complete yet. I just specifically want to talk about part 1 because you can just, not like part 2 or the anime, you could just look at part 1 and it could be a complete story, you know? It could just have that nice ending like it does, and that could have been the story, and I would have been perfectly happy with that. And that's what I want to talk about because that's where my love for Chainsaw Man started, obviously, and everyone else's has. There's a lot of small things that add up to big things that I think are some of the things that people have come to love and appreciate Chainsaw Man for. One of the things, at least I noticed, is kind of the subtlety of how the power system works. It's not necessarily like pushed in your face. Animes like Demon Slayer, Bleach, Naruto, My Hero Academia, they all thoroughly explain how every single character's ability works. Like, I can shoot ass hair out of my nose because my follicles, when I intake a large amount of proteins, they absorb the sunlight and then I can use them as telekinetic ass nose hairs. You know, I don't know. It gets so ridiculous, and I'm just sitting there and I'm like, I want to see you fight. Let's see that. Let's see what's going on there. I'm not going to remember how your power works in like literally right after you're done explaining it. And it's just, I don't understand why it's there. I mean, it's neat. It's nice. Like, it's really cool how in-depth the creator was for thinking of how that power could work and all that. It's neat. It's a nice little cherry on top that nobody cares about. I'm 100% certain if all the anime characters took out how they explained how their powers worked and then they just got right to fighting, maybe like said like, you know, one or two small things about it, nobody would care. They would be like, oh yeah, like a sentence or two, you know, real quick. But these MFs are sitting here telling us a nursery story, a little nursery rhyme about how their freaking powers work. I don't care. Just get to the fight, dude. Just go. It's not, maybe there are some people that like it. I don't. I'm not a fan. And Chainsaw Man doesn't really do that. You know, it's just, you get a very basic idea and understanding of kind of how things work. And it's a lot more of show, don't tell for a manga. I mean, there's still a little bit of telling And what I mean by show don't tell, if people don't understand that terminology, is that show don't tell is reading or watching something, it's not, whatever is happening is not blatantly stated to the audience. Like if a character is feeling sad, the character is not sitting there saying, "Oh God, I'm so sad. I didn't have my chocolate pudding today. I'm really sad." No, that character missed his chocolate pudding, and so he's, it's raining. The rain, the gloominess of the weather helps conveys the character's emotion. The character, their head is kind of tilted down. The way their face is structured, it's a little sad. Look, I don't know how to explain frown. They're frowning. It's conveyed by how it would naturally happen, because you're not going to be sad about you missing out on your pudding as you're moseying around somewhere and you're like, "Oh, my pudding, I missed it." No, nobody does that. I mean, maybe somebody does. Okay, most people don't do that. Most normal people don't do that. Okay, and Chainsaw Man has the subtlety to convey power creeps and how power systems kind of work within Chainsaw Man, and it's kind of left up to your interpretation, and I really appreciate that. It's a nice change in pace for manga in general. I really love the characters. This is a quick side note right here. I don't know if anybody has noticed this, but most of the characters' names, most of them, I'm sure I'm maybe missing one or two names, but most of the names I've noticed in Chainsaw Man are 4 letters or less. As far as American alphabet, the way that they're written, they're about 4 letters or less, and they're all, at least the characters that's like, I've always had a struggle trying to remember like anime characters' names, because the word sounds so foreign to me, and if it wasn't for anime and the way they like say the characters' names 5 million times like incessantly, somebody trips and falls on their shoelace and somebody's just like, "Ugh," and like says the character's name, like, what, you don't need to say that person's name, but you know what I mean, like how anime works in that realm of that. I really like the names, Power, Beam, Denji, Makima, Aki, Kobeni. Like all these names are just, they're simple, they're not crazy. Back to what I wanted to talk about was characters and their motivations. Denji, his character is extremely relatable considering his situation. I don't think people might be as, okay, never mind, I take that back. There are probably people that are as horny as Denji, but I would say maybe as selfish as he is sometimes, because there's quite a few times that it's been proven that, he's not a horrible person, but he is neither a good person. And I appreciate that. I think, considering how his upbringing was, at least how it was conveyed to us in the manga, he didn't exactly have the greatest role models. He didn't exactly really have any role models. And he's just had a life of just trying to survive. When you have a life where pretty much all you've done is just trying to survive and try to get that peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and that's your goal, you might end up a little selfish. But it's fascinating to see character in shonen manga that is not immediately all about protecting their friends and families. He's all about, he's the complete opposite. He's all about protecting himself, only caring about himself or his deepest desires. Whether some people want to admit it or not, I think that's something that I think most of us can kind of relate to, is, we want to be selfish sometimes and fulfill our desires, whether it's boobas. But I think it's very fascinating to have a character. characters start out like that. Power, starting out as just an insufferable ass, she's narcissistic and she, has her own like little self ego, is a chronic liar and constantly, pinning the blame on somebody else in the most casual way she can. It's, they're characters that aren't perfect, and they're part of our two main characters, as well as Aki. Aki, he's been through a lot. He's had a very traumatic life, seeing his whole family get killed by, the gun devil, wanting to only kill devils. I'm trying not to spoil the story, but, other characters unfortunately pass that affect Aki's mental being and Makima. Honestly, the first time I read it, I don't know if this is just me or this is how it was supposed to be portrayed, but I think the first time when I read Chainsaw Man, and probably within the first 2 or 3 chapters, I was immediately not trusting of Makima. Her character, I wasn't immediately writing her off as a villain or anything. I wasn't saying like, oh, I predicted it or anything. The way she carried herself and the way she said things and how she, little nuances she would say to Denji and Power specifically, and how she viewed them, like dogs. I mean, everyone kind of treated, Denji like crap. Makima never directly said anything terrible to Denji. Compared to the rest of the characters, to me, at least the way it was conveyed, I felt like she viewed him very much lower than, say, the other characters that were actually saying terrible things about him or to him. And I'm talking about, just my first initial thoughts within like the first like 1 or 3 volumes of Chainsaw Man. I'm not talking about, after reading the complete thing, because obviously now I understand. I've caught up. The panels, some of the big spread out canvas panels. Denji first becomes Chainsaw Man, and he's, busting out of all the piles of zombies, or he's thrusting the chainsaw inside the zombie devil's eye. Aki summons Kon for the first time. I really love that panel. I also really like, everyone's obviously favorite is, when the darkness devil shows up, and, you have the astronauts, making the pray hands, and as well as the other one with the darkness devil, where he's standing in the middle of all of the characters and their hands are floating in the air. The panel of Makima taking Denji to the door, and the painting in Makima's house is a picture of the fall of Lucifer, which I wish I was big-brained enough to like truly understand the symbolism of that. Like, I know that there's symbolism there, but I can't sit there, well, actually, the reason why that picture of the fall of Lucifer is right there is because... Now, I'm not that smart. I don't have enough brain cells to rub together to figure that one out. But it doesn't take much of my imagination to understand that, well, Makima's bad, Lucifer is bad. There's something there. There's something. Whatever I said, there's something there with that. But if somebody knows, please let me know, because I don't really think I've seen anything on the internet that has explained that panel, and it's one of my favorites. But there's a lot of really fantastic panels that convey a lot. It's really amazing. I love the transitional ones. There's one that sticks out to me, when the angel devil and Aki, they're at the beach and they see Makima, and Makima is waving her hand. In the panel, it's squared off, but Makima's hand is reaching up through the other panel, and it transitions into that image of her waving them down. Or the one with Denji, thrusting his chainsaw through the zombie devil's face, and it goes over to the other panel of what the zombie devil's face looks like after being mutilated. Or the one with Power entering the room, meeting Denji and Aki for the first time. the way it transitions from like a big picture of her yelling out to a complete composition, pose thing, whatever you want to call it, of her body. It's really cool. I really enjoy it. The amount of work put into trying to have a transition, the humor in the show, the dark humor, kind of subtle, like Kobeni and her constantly, she's barely surviving these extremely traumatic events, Power crashing Kobeni's car, and Power's like, oh my God, you idiot, why'd you crash your car? This is your car, I don't understand. And Kobeni is just so confused and, doesn't understand Power, and like, why is she blaming me? I wasn't even driving. And a certain devil is at a restaurant that Kobeni is now working at, starts killing off her associates that she works with, and she keeps spilling the order that this devil ordered. It's a little funny. Well, I guess there's another one. Her being forced to do Dance Dance Revolution. That was also kind of a oddly dark humor, because she's obviously in distress and miserable, but it's just such a ridiculous situation to be in, while you're in the middle of a apocalyptic fight doing Dance Dance Revolution. And it's the kind of humor you don't really see that often in general, I think, actually, in the way that it's handled, because of the subtlety of it. I would say even less common in anime and manga. I'm going to be honest, I'm not really a fan of Japanese humor. There are a few shows that, make me have an exhale of the nostrils a few times, but most of the time I'm just not a fan of it personally, though I do enjoy, obviously, manga and anime, because I'm sitting here talking about one right now for about 30 minutes. But the final thing I wanted to talk about was I absolutely love the ending of part 1. I love, because it could end right there, or it could be a conclusion to that arc to lead up to another one. And obviously that's what we got, is that it was a conclusion to that arc to lead into another one. But I think that is a beautiful ending. I think if it hadn't ended with the last two pages, if it had not ended that way, I think there would be a small difference in how people view this manga, because it ends on a nice warm ending for a manga that has had a lot of intense themes and situations that surrounded our main characters, and a lot of the sadness that the creator is trying to make you feel. I think for the way it ended, it wasn't a perfectly wrapped bow, but it was just a nice conclusion that kind of got you excited, like, oh man, I hope there's another one. I hope there's a part 2, or damn, that was something, that you can see how this character grew in a lot of ways, and in a lot of ways didn't. And yeah, I think maybe that's all I have to talk about right now. As far as Chainsaw Man, I'm extremely excited for the anime. Unfortunately, due to my working circumstances, I won't be able to see the first episode, but I'm extremely excited to see it, and might talk about the anime. Yeah, that's it.